The following podcast is not affiliated with the developers who have created the games being reviewed. The reviews are solely the opinions of the hosts to be used to make an educated decision on what games to download and play.
Hello gamers and welcome to Budget Arcade, a free-to-play gaming podcast to help you navigate through the growing realm of free-to-play games. I'm Scott.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Elliot.
And welcome to episode number 48. Just to recap, we play a free-to-play game each week and then we rate and review it. But again, this is a special week and we have a special guest, Mr. Michael Mendheim.
Hey guys, nice to be here.
Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
It's great to have you. So what we're going to do is a few question and answers here. Jeff, you want to take the lead?
Yeah, and before I take the first question, or offer the first question, I just want to say Michael Mendheim is the developer of Mutant Football League and the original, which is a spiritual successor to Mutant League Football for the Sega Genesis. So he's in the gaming industry, just so to give you a quick background. Now, this is one that had just occurred to me, a question. It's not one of the ones I listed, but so I'm not sure what you were doing between when Mutant League Football was out and when you started developing Mutant Football League. What was kind of the catalyst to say, hey, I want to go back to that title and bring it back?
Well, that was always like one of the favorite titles I ever worked on. It was a hard title to make originally, but the content of it, I love football, so it had football. I love monsters and mutants. It had that. I like violence. Mm-hmm. So it was something that it was always my favorite game that I developed over the years. The community, those guys have kept in touch like over those 20 years, whether they're screaming for another mutant hockey or football. It's just always been something that, I've been reminded of weekly, and I figured I'd take a shot and try and bring it back. I mean, in between those products, I've worked on many other games, but it's just near and dear to my heart. Gave it a shot and somehow we pulled it off.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads into my real first question is, you did this through Kickstarter and your first Kickstarter didn't meet the goal, and so you had to rally back and do another one. What was that Kickstarter experience like, and how do you rally back from, hey, I'm not meeting the goal, to saying, hey, I'm still gonna make this happen?
Yeah, that first Kickstarter was a complete disaster. Pretty much it was all my fault. That whole, like when you fail and you fail big, you got to learn from that, right? Because it's like you learn so much more from your failures than your successes. So I had never done a Kickstarter. We went in there without a demo, right? We just thought like that the concept was going to win the day. We originally on that first Kickstarter had presented a mobile game, right? And so we were presenting a Mutant Football League mobile game, kind of like a stylized art style. And the people that loved the original game, they basically hated the idea, hated what we were doing with it, and let me know in no uncertain terms that, the product had to be on console. What are you doing? You're screwing up our game. You're just trying to do a money grab and all of that. When we saw like we had asked for way too much money and we knew we were going to fail, usually on Kickstarter, what people do is like they pull the plug, right? They go, okay, this isn't going to work, and they go away. And I actually didn't. Like I took my lumps for, an entire month. And then, answering questions and, trying to somehow hope that a miracle would come in, but there was no miracle. And then when the Kickstarter expired and we had failed, it was, very humiliating. For a while, you kind of just start licking your wounds. But then I went back and I kind of wrote like some of the hardish critics that were writing me on Kickstarter, just trying to tap into their heads and figure out exactly what they wanted. And then I went and I figured out a way to try and get a demo together with my partner. And we have a dev studio in Kyiv, Ukraine. And my partner Maxime goes, I can put a couple guys together. Let's see what we can do. And we spent like the next year coming up with a playable demo. And the art style, everything kind of, we paid for everything ourselves out of our own pockets. And then I went back to Kickstarter a year later with a much lower goal. And we actually put the demo out there, which was one of the scariest things I've ever done, because we had such a small development team on it. We didn't have the money to like put it into a professional QA program. We were testing the product ourselves, and we put it out there, and we did another Kickstarter, and we said, here, we did a video, here's our video of the game, and just so it's not smoke and mirrors, here you can actually go play it. And we were building the game for PC, Xbox, and PS4. And when people played the demo and they could look at the video and see the characters, it's at that point that they were all in. And our pledge goal was met like within 4 days of us posting the new campaign. And funny enough, we actually hit our goal on Super Bowl Sunday when New England's Patriots were playing Atlanta. And just as Tom Brady put that game into overtime is when we hit our goal. So it was kind of cool.
So you mentioned Mutant League Hockey. So what was the driving factor to create the spiritual successor for Mutant League Football as opposed to the Mutant League Hockey?
Well, I mean, that's pretty easy. So it's just like if we were going to do a reboot, which it's not really a reboot because we couldn't use any of the characters' names or any of the teams that we had in the original game because EA owns the rights to all of those. But to do another game in the spirit of the original, it had to be football first. It just had to be football first. And there's other considerations concerning football, like it's the number one sport in America. It's so naturally tied to the violence that we want to do. And football's my first love. So it was going to be football, and there was no doubt about it. I love mutant hockey, and I would love to do a mutant hockey game, but the first game had to be football.
So what you're saying is EA has the rights to the name I See Nothing?
Yeah. So EA owns the rights to all of the characters and teams, and the visual and audio presentation that we did in the original game.
I didn't play Mutant League Football because I didn't have a Genesis. I was a Super Nintendo guy. But what were the big differences between like making a game for Genesis versus like newer consoles?
Well, I mean, number one, it's like the graphic quality, right? I mean, you can actually do something visually striking. That first Mutant League game, I mean, it was kind of like a top-down view, and we were dealing with sprites instead of 3D models. So the amount of detail and just atmosphere, it was just kind of tough to create it back in the day. We had some really great programmers on that original game, and we also had, some great artists. But building games for like the current gen systems, it's just, I mean, you can actually capture about 80% of what's in your head. So it's just a better overall visual quality and audio quality to the product. So that's the biggest thing.
So my next question is, my brother, and I even think Scott to a degree, are not football fans, but my brother will play
That is
Mutant League
correct.
Football with me or Mutant Football League with me. How do you go into developing something as a football fan and still try to appeal to the casual or even non-fan of football while still making it fun for those of us that actually like the sport?
Sure. Great question. But before I answer that, did you guys have fun playing
Oh,
the
it was a
game?
blast.
Yes.
Yes, it was very fun.
Listen, Mutant League Football is one of my games. It's like that and Toe Jam and Earl on the Sega Genesis. Forget about it.
Okay.
I go in and I do a tournament on the original all the time. I love that game. And
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's interesting about Mutant Football League is we've got our audience, we have football fanatics, right? But we also have players that don't really play football, and they don't generally like play sports games either, but we got a lot of people like that playing Mutant Football League. And I think what it is because you can play the game a completely different way.
Oh, for sure.
Like you can play the game where your strategy is about just trying to decimate the other team. So in Mutant Football League, for those listening that don't know what the hell I'm talking about, we have a game that kind of plays like NFL Blitz, right? So it's a pick up and play. It's an easy football game to play and have fun with. We're not creating a simulation like John Madden football. So you kind of start with like an NFL Blitz type of model. It's easy. It's fun. You can complete passes. But what we do is we allow players to die in the game. So we have all kinds of late hits that you can do. And those late hits, every time you hit or tackle a player on the opposing team, they lose health. And we have levers in the game that players can adjust to increase the level of carnage in the game. And the higher you put that carnage level, the more people the players on field are going to die. And then our fields are also scattered with hazards. So some fields have buzzsaws going through them. Some fields have landmines. It's like every field you play on is a little bit different. And then on top of all of that, if that's not enough chaos and mayhem for you, we also have these plays called dirty tricks. And dirty tricks are plays designed to hose or kill your opposition. So, for example, we have a murder ball that when the quarterback throws it, blades come out of the football, and any opposing player between the football and the receiver target, if they get in the way of the ball, they die. So you can win the game by playing traditional football, and at the end of the fourth quarter, whoever has the highest score wins the game. Or you could try to decimate the opposition, and if you kill enough players on the opposing team, regardless of what the score is, they could be winning 60-0. But if you've taken out all their quarterbacks and they can't put a quarterback on the field, they lose by forfeit and you win. And I think a lot of the players that aren't traditional football fans, video game fans, play our game with that mentality. Like they don't care about, being able to understand what all the plays are. They go and they play and they just try to decimate the other team, and that's how they win.
Yeah, and you missed out on one of my favorite dirty tricks, which is bribing the referee.
That's right. That's another one. I mean, it's football, right? So you know that the refs aren't that stupid as you watching like professional football games, right? So we're just taking the covers off of that, and we're going, you know what? You can bribe the ref. And of course, once you bribe the ref, and what happens if you bribe them and you score a touchdown or you get a big play, you get a penalty and they call that playback. And then they have these ridiculous penalties. So you know that they're bribed, right? So they'll go, you're penalized because you think Rush is better than Led Zeppelin. Right. So when they say something stupid like that, you instantly know that they're bribed. So then what you have to do is you have to go kill the ref And once you kill the ref, the bribe dies with the ref, and then a new ref comes out on the field.
But of course, you get penalized for murdering the ref too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I find that you with this game, like, you live and die on how you use your trick plays and how you and when you bribe the ref. Like, that's such a strategic part of it, is trying to understand when. Like, so my friend Cody and I were playing once, and we both bribed the ref on the same play, not knowing it. And I guess my bribe went in later. I'm not really sure how the game interprets that, but he bribed and I bribed, and apparently I had a larger bribe, I guess. And the referees, called the game in my favor. It was beautiful.
I think what happens there is if two players bribe the ref simultaneously, the home team wins the bribe.
Okay. There's your home field advantage then.
You got it.
Man, all week playing, I constantly thought back to NFL Blitz, which is so funny that you mentioned that, because that was like one of the few sports games that I ever enjoyed, where I'm like a big sports fan, but like I just don't get into sports games. And all week I constantly thought of NFL Blitz with playing with my brother and calling the same stupid plays again and again. So it's funny you said that. So like, being in the industry, do you view games differently than like regular people who play games? Like, are you more generous to like a really bad game, or when you see a bad game, are you just like, wow, like they didn't even try at all?
Well, it depends. So if you're in the industry, you tend to be more analytical when playing other games, because you're thinking, oh, how did they do that? Or how did they get that shader on that character to make that character looks so amazing? So you're kind of always analyzing games, and if you see something cool or you like, you kind of write it down and you store it, so maybe we can do something like that in whatever game we're working on next. So you've got that. But in terms of when you play a game and like you're getting bugs and stuff, like that's just that pisses me off, because it's like you gotta try and ship products that don't have a million bugs. So if you have a million bugs, it's because you rushed the product. I also have problems with games that torture me. So sometimes, they want to try and get more hours. They want to have you spend more hours playing the game. So they have you kind of dying a lot. And, that frustrates me too. So, but beyond that, I don't have a lot of time to play a ton of games. So the games that I try to play are either the games that I need to play for like research purposes, or the games I really, really want to play because they got Game of the Year, or, they're just so recognized as being of high quality and excellence, or just great experiences that I want to check them out. But I don't have a lot of time to put hours and hours into a game. I tend to, a lot of times my kid's always playing games, and I'll sit on his bed and watch him, because he's actually a better game player than I, and he can get through stuff that I can't.
Cool.
I've reached that point too. I'm playing Smash Brothers with my 9-year-old, and it's gotten to the point where he just wrecks me now. It's not even close.
Yeah. And they're so good at it. It's just crazy.
You did mention Blitz a couple times. With this game, did you create a whole new engine for it, or were you using a specific engine previously done in another game?
Oh no, we're on Unity. Mutant Football League was developed on Unity, but all the code that made the game a football game, that's all proprietary code that we created, and we continue to improve over time, because we released the product a while ago, but we're still updating it. Mm-hmm. Like, we just did an update this week. So what those updates typically are some bugs. There's some community requests always in there. And we always update the teams to reflect, the NFL status in terms of rankings of teams, power rankings. So we update our teams a couple times during the season, just so it reflects any NFL trades that were made and that type of thing.
That's pretty cool.
Because while we don't have any NFL teams, what we do in Mutant Football League is we have some made up teams that are like fantasy teams. Like we have a rock and roll heavy metal team, and we have like a team that's made of orcs, and they're called the Orcs of Hazards. They're kind of like the big dumb southern orcs. So we have some made up teams that don't exist anywhere. And then we also have parody teams of NFL teams. So like, for example, the Kansas City Chiefs, we've got the, Carcass City Creeps. And we're releasing some DLC on January 31st, which is the San Francisco 40 Nightmares. So when we release that DLC, like people can do their Super Bowl matchups before the big game.
Oh, that's very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate the constant stream of teams and stuff.
So what are some of the games that had a big impact on you, either growing up or just even recently? Like, have you had any games that you just really stood out to you that you've played recently?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I'm actually... I've always been a fan of Madden, so I play a ton of Madden. Right now, I'm like playing a lot of sports games, right? So 2K, NBA, and the God of War has always been one of my favorite
That's on my
games,
list.
so.
I literally bought that for like $10, and it's literally sat on my shelf ever since. I'm just one day I'm going to get to it.
That's one of the games I was talking about, like where it's just so cool, right? I mean, it's just such a visually stunning game, and it's got a great story. I'm like watching my kid get through, because like some of those bosses I can't, and I just watch my kid, and he just gets through, and I'm enjoying the story.
Now you put out a game independently. What's next? Are you going to keep the indie train rolling and see yourself just doing things on your own, or going to a company like EA or something else and developing again that way?
No, we have a company, Digital Dreams Entertainment. So we do a variety of different games. Like we've got a shooter game out called Carnivores Dinosaur Hunter, and we've got Mutant Football League, and then we did the Mutant Football League Dynasty Edition. And right now we were working on a project that is top secret.
Okay.
That is pretty freaking cool. And I'm like so excited about this product. I wish I could talk about it, but I can't.
Well, if you need beta testers, let us know.
Yeah, we've got our team working on that project right now. And like if we can pull this one off, it's got to be pretty amazing that an indie studio was able to do something like we're doing. We got a long way to go before we get there, but what we've got right now is looking pretty cool. We obviously need some help on some funding as we get a little closer. I mean, the way the industry works now is they kind of want to see like almost a game in alpha before you can get some serious funding.
Is that hard?
So
is that hard to do that when they have standards like that?
It's not really standards. Like I'm sure there's other developers that go in and that have either such an incredible track record of success, or they could go in there with a concept that is just like it hits the bullseye for that particular publisher. They might get funding from the beginning, but for us, like that hasn't been our path. Not that we haven't tried, we just it hasn't been like that. It was like the same thing with Mutant Football League. We didn't even get a publisher until we were damn near alpha. So I feel like this is going to be kind of the same thing. Once you can release a product and have it sell units in the millions, then that kind of changes things. So obviously Mutant Football League was not a 1 million unit seller.
Okay, you're right.
But it did pretty good for us. I mean, it was it did very well for us, but if you're looking at major publishers, they want to sell units. They want to sell in the millions, not in the hundreds of thousands.
Now, when you say a publisher, is that for physical hard copies, or do you need to publisher
the publisher that we hooked up with for Mutant Football League was Nighthawk, and they wanted to sell the retail version. So we licensed the retail versions for them to ship, to put retail product out. And then our company controlled all the digital.
One of the things that, as a football fan, and I don't know if you feel this way, I've always been more of the NCAA football guy. Mm-hmm. And do you look at the current landscape of football video games and say, oh, there's this opportunity here because this franchise is gone, at least for the time being, and say, hey, maybe that's a place where we can fill in?
Yeah, well, there is no current landscape of football video games, right?
Mm-hmm. There's Madden, and that's it. There's
Madden football, and if you want NFL players in your football game, good luck, because EA has the exclusive rights to those. So there's only one football game, and that's Madden. Now, there's a couple, there's a few other football games out there, whether they are on mobile. I guess EA doesn't have the NFL rights for mobile, but exclusively. So I think you can do games with NFL players on mobile. But mobile's really, it's a tough market, mobile. We do develop mobile games, but the license is so expensive, I would imagine, for NFL players and NFL teams that's a very high risk of just being able to release a game on mobile only. And then the other games out there, like, they're either really super, super arcadey, so they're not really like tactical football, or they are, but they don't have the players, right? Mm-hmm. So besides for Madden right now, there's not much, right? If you want to play a football game, and I think the best football game out there in terms of just fun and entertainment and play mechanics would be Mutant Football League.
Right.
Because there is no blitz. There is no 2K football. So it's just like you can play Madden or you can play our game. And those are the options.
Chances are you've probably bought Madden last year, and it hasn't changed that much. So Mutant Football League would at least be a new experience.
Yeah, it's definitely going to give you something different, but it's not a simulation. And, a lot of people go, oh, Madden, they just update rosters every year, and they just, all their development is just Ultimate Team, and they don't do anything other than that. And, that's so not true. They put in a story mode, right? And then they're developing features. It's just Madden is kind of this juggernaut of a game, and it has so many aspects to it. But those guys add pretty big features every year. So if you want a simulation football game, they do it great, but having some competition would only make Madden better, right? Exactly, so when 2K had their football game out, like, a lot of people love that game. It's their favorite football game ever, and it gave Madden 2K5 some serious competition. And, in capitalist society, having competition is good because it doesn't allow you to sit on your laurels, and you got to keep innovating and making your game better and better. When there's no competition, it's like, it's a little different story.
Yeah. Well, I remember when 2K5 was the last NFL 2K game, and I remember they came out with that game and it was $20 in a $50 world. And I was a Madden guy, and I said, I got to go try it for $20.
Right.
And it was the game I played more. So I'm totally with you there.
Yeah, and well, they really what they did so well in that game was the blocking and the running between tackles. Like they had that like so well done that it just felt right and it looked right when you were playing it. So, and then of course Madden had to improve their running between the tackles because that's important to people that are playing simulation football. So it was all good. But I mean, they did such a great job on that product. And coming out at $20 and then eating up a huge market share of Madden, I mean, that was brilliant.
It wasn't a coincidence that after that $20 launch, that's when EA snapped up that NFL license. So,
well, yeah,
they felt threatened.
I mean, they did. And I mean, nobody had ever paid that much for a license in video game history. I mean, that was the largest license ever paid when they did it. And they said, you know what? It's football, and we want to own that market. And that's what they did.
So who do you got on Sunday?
All right, here we go.
Oh, it's got to be the Chiefs, right? Come on.
It's a tough Super Bowl to pick.
Patrick Mahomes.
Generally, teams that have stout defenses do very well in the Super Bowl. But my heart and who I'm rooting for are the Kansas City Chiefs. I want Andy Reid to get his
he deserves
Bowl
it.
trophy. The Niners have a lot of Super Bowls. I want Andy Reid. And then Patrick Mahomes, who right now is the face of the NFL. He's such a talent.
And chill dude. He's such a chill dude, too.
Yeah, I see him do things that I've never seen any other quarterback in the NFL do. And this is particularly disheartening for me coming from Chicago. And in the NFL draft, there was Deshaun Watson, there was Patrick Mahomes, and there was Mitch Trubisky.
Yep.
Listen.
And the Bears trade up, give away a first-round draft pick to trade up one spot with the Niners, who weren't going to draft a quarterback. They already had one, but Chicago was worried that all these other teams were going to, I have no idea. To me, it was insanity that they did that. But when I heard Mitchell Trubisky and not Deshaun Watson, I just was like, what? What did they just do? I'll be honest. I never thought like Patrick Mahomes was going to be who he is. I thought like the clear cut guy was Deshaun Watson. Any of those two guys on the Bears are in the Super Bowl last year.
Oh, look, dude, I'm a Colts fan. So like this was supposed to be our year. And then you look just like a week before, so.
He announced his retirement at a preseason game when they were playing the Bears.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they booed him off the field, which is unbelievable. But
that happened at the preseason game. So I think Mahomes is good enough to figure out the Niner defense, and I think they're gonna.
Yeah,
win.
I do too.
I hope you're right. That's what I'm pulling for.
Yeah, I can't believe they came back from 20.
Oh, I can't either, man. That's crazy.
So yeah, I think it's a great matchup. It's actually the matchup that I wanted for the Super Bowl. So I'm like super psyched. And I believed that matchup was going to happen so much that we like scrambled to get the San Francisco team out. I was just very happy that was the matchup.
That's cool.
Well, Michael, we want to thank you for coming on. We really enjoyed having you on. Is there any social medias or anything that you'd like people to follow you on?
Well, I think like for Mutant Football League, we're on Facebook and we're at Mutant Football on Twitter. I'm at Mendheim on Twitter. So, for people that the product sounds kind of interesting, we've got it at a super reasonable price point. You can get it on Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Steam. And like if you own the Nintendo Switch, like we're the only football game in town on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $20. So go get Mutant Football League, do the Super Bowl matchup, and I hope you have a lot of fun with it. If you look at the reviews of Mutant Football League, you'll see on Steam or Xbox One, we're 9 out of 10. So people seem to like the product a lot. They're having a lot of fun with it. Even if you don't play sports games, like I said, there's a couple different ways to play. Want to thank you guys for having me. It was a fun interview. Really great questions. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was a blast.
We want to thank everybody for joining us. Wherever you're listening, we ask that you would leave us a favorable review. And also don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen.
If you want to follow us on social media, we are at Budget Arcade on Twitter and Instagram. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Budget Arcade. And you can also check out our website, www.budgetarcade.com.
Next week, we will be playing a mobile game, Ultimancer. Join us then and game on.